That's right.
Super Bowl,
still trying to find
championship game here. Tell the audience what you did when you came into the Oakland Coliseum with Tony Siragusa.
That was special because no one expected us to win. Came cross country into the. I remember my memory of that game is back then that you didn't just drive into the Coliseum. They cut a hole in the fence and made you drive through the heart of the Raider Nation. And this God's
Hell's
honest
Angels.
Truth, we pull off, and there's I'm going to say 65-year-old looking-ish grandmother with her, I'll say 10-year-old granddaughter, all dressed in Raider regalia, both flipping the bus off as we go by.
Of course.
Okay, we're in for a day. Now,
you dominated. It was
great.
the 2000 AFC Championship game. So whenever we see Coach, we talk about that game and your brilliant career, obviously, but we go back to Bill Walsh, and I know you haven't had a chance to see the rise of the 49ers.
Not yet.
We had 4 straight episodes, 2 on Sunday, 2 on Monday.
Can't wait to see it.
You sat down. He shared so many coaching. Everybody's enthralled about him filming all of his meetings and all of his call sheets and everything that he passed on, and that was all to pass on to the next generation of coaches like yourself, correct?
The brilliance, the genius of Bill Walsh, and there's so many things, obviously, his accomplishments and what he does and what he did. But the real genius, for my money, and I think Bill saw it in the same way, the genius was in his teaching. He was the ultimate teacher. Everything was based on, as you said, it's not what I know. It's what can I impart on the players and what can they embrace. And so that teaching sequence that is legendary and is followed through without the league. When you talk about the West Coast offense, the tactics and the strategies and the plays, I mean, everybody's doing the same thing. It's that teaching sequence where he was revolutionary, particularly in today's game with the technologies that we have to teach the players. It is he would have loved that aspect of it.
All right, so we got to talk about the X-Tech pads, right? Because not only can I tell you about it, I can show you
brought
right
them
here
this year
on the camera.
Let me see that.
The X-Tech shoulder
I think
pads.
that'll fit right over your head.
Should I give it a try with the headset on? I don't know if it's going to work.
I'm going to be like Jim Harbaugh and go, no, I don't want to do that.
But in all seriousness, we are excited about this product. We are excited to hear about some of the work you've been doing. I know Eli Manning was a part of this one as well. So what is the latest on the X-Tech pads and trying to find the right fit for younger players?
Well, I'm excited, but we're in our 14th year. We're the number 1 pad in pro and college football. The list of players, and 60 of the guys this weekend will be in this pad. And we talked about the technology and the innovation of the teaching. That's exactly what this is. This is the next iteration of technology. The X-Tex bot, which is AI-driven. You know, the old days, big guys had big pads, little guys had little pads. Now this is based on your height, your weight, your position, your injury history, the level that you play at, as it should be, because we have the capability of putting that kind of protection on our players. And so I'm really excited that I've got a 14-year-old and 10-year-old grandsons, that they were the prototype. We're going to get into the youth pad, which is desperately needed to protect. Because, what do? We got to take the head out of the game, right? Shoulder pads are that next level of protection, and the technologies where we've reached this is the next thing. This is what all our players need to be in.
So, I can't hear you, but you look good. So, speaking of this, and then Bill Walsh, very seldom with the Niners, even way back then in the 70s and 80s, would practice with pads on. He would save it for game day. Mike Shanahan learned that when he was here. The Niners very seldom, they have like one every couple of weeks padded practices. We were talking to Matt Hasselbeck the other day. He coaches high school football. He said, we never tackle, ever. We're never in pads until game day. So what's the proper way to keep our football players healthy with these pads, and how much do you actually have to hit?
Bill Walsh, again, part of his genius. The entire league is now practicing the way Bill implemented and started us back with the 49ers, because I was there on the first year with Bill, and in an administrative capacity. So I get with aspirations of wanting to get into coaching.
He worked in PR back then.
How about that?
How about that?
And so I got to kind of step back and watch Bill put this together and the priorities he had. And you're exactly right. Training camp, I remember him every year. It was John Wooden-esque. when Johnny would say, okay, this is how you attack. Bill would start every season with his coaches in training camp saying, you have one major prime directive for this team come this opening of training camp, or the opening of the season, to get them to that opening as healthy and fresh as we can. Now, we got a lot of other things we need to do. So every way that he practiced was very thought out and very forward-thinking, ahead of his time, in terms of how do I get the players the work that they need, but every time you put a player on a field, there's fatigue and there's a chance to get hurt. And Bill maximized that to where everybody in the league is pressing that same way now.
So, Coach, let me ask, what did you do with your Ravens teams? Because I remember they were all great, but that 2000 team, they didn't just want to tackle you. They wanted to bury you in the ground. They were as physical as possible, led by Ray Lewis in the front and Bo Ware and all your guys, your secondary, Rod Woodson. So did you do that in training camp?
That was the dichotomy of that team, and the boys couldn't believe it. The men couldn't believe it when I came in, and so I'm a new coach trying to establish a team that had not had a winning season since its inception, that was newly born, transformed from Cleveland into Baltimore, and with some good veteran players, particularly on the defensive side, and so now this is the most dominant defense in my opinion, the history of the league. And showed them, guys, this is how we're going to get there. This is how we're going to win. This is how we're going to practice. And they couldn't believe me. We hit. Again, you're talking about maybe the most ferocious defense in the history of the game. We hit less than any other team in the league. But they learned and understood, we're going to keep you fresh, and we're still going to get done what we need to do. I learned from Bill. I spent most of my time at any given practice, training camp or otherwise, watching and observing to decide how much at the end of practice, how little hitting we can get away with. How much, if we practicing well enough, are we carrying our pads so we don't have to expose, or do we know we got to hit one another to make sure that I was monitoring what it is they needed. Because you do, there's cardiovascular shape, there's muscular shape, and there's hitting shape. So you do, that's the thing right now coaches are lamenting in training camp, that they sometimes feel they don't have enough time to really get into hitting shape. But you've got to be very careful with that. And I attribute whatever success I had, ironically, on a team that was known for a ferocious defense.
They just pulverized you.
Yeah.
Tony Siragusa on Rich's
shoulder.
shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
Coach, we appreciate your time very much.
You got your ring? You wearing the ring?
Yeah, always. I don't wear it much, but love sporting it around. Loves come back to Radio Row and see everybody and the excitement about the Super Bowl.
And we love the representation of X-Tech. I
Every
tried it
year
on
he
without
brings
the
it
headset. You had me sold, man.
I got it. We're good.
Amazing.
Thank you, Coach.
Brian
Swinging
Billick.
the Banshee.
That's
looking for
right.
the SOB.
More coming up on Papa and Silver on the Sports Leader.